I talk a lot about applying to jobs on Upwork, and I also talk a lot about how I got started on Upwork, but I've never really explained exactly how I got my first few jobs on Upwork, and especially exactly how long that took me. I think it's really important to be incredibly transparent and honest with you guys because Upwork is a really hard place to find a job, especially when you're first getting started. So that's what we're gonna do today. If we haven't met yet, my name is Colleen. I am a professional freelance video editor. I've been video editing for like 15 years, and I now run my own relatively successful freelance business. But of course, it took me a long time to get here, so let's start from kind of the beginning. Flashback to 2014. This is when I graduated from 𝗶𝗏𝗥 University, which is a hands-on film school, 4-year school. Spent a lot of money on that. And I graduated with a BA in Cinema and Digital Arts, and I actually concentrated in sound design. However, I have lied on a few resumes saying that it was video editing because who cares? Whatever you learn is whatever you learn in school. And honestly, people in the real world don't really care about the exact specifics of what you concentrated in school. And in my case, video editing is what I wanted to do, so we just kind of push that to the side. I did not just jump into getting my first video editing job. I did have a couple freelance opportunities here and there, but more than anything, I worked at a bakery for like 6 months, and then a few shows came into town, and I started working there as a costume PA, and that carried me through for a couple years. Cut to 2017. I had been working on a few indie films doing production sound and sound design and video editing. Like I said, I was coming off of kind of a surge of being in the costumes world as a PA, learning to try and be a coordinator. That kind of all fell through, and I decided, hey, it's time to go back to your roots, back to what you want to do, which is video editing. And I kind of found myself in sort of a down season. I was relatively unemployed for about a year. I did have a couple freelance situations, but I was actually collecting unemployment for a while until that ran out. And then it was like, hey, what are you gonna do with your life? You need to get it together and get yourself a job. And after all that mess, like I said, this was the year that I did decide to get back into video editing. But you can't just get back into video editing like it's this easy thing, because you need to develop reputation. And especially when you are starting on a platform like Upwork, it's not so easy to just jump in and say, hey, hire me. So in the spring of 2017 is when I seriously started looking for jobs on Upwork. Now, it did take me a little bit of time, maybe a month or two, before I ended up finding a job that would hire me on Upwork. I can't quite pin down on Upwork when that time actually started, but my guess was it took me probably 1 to 3 months of applying on Upwork before I got the job that I ended up getting. And let me be clear, that time that I was applying for jobs on Upwork was a serious time for me. I was putting a lot of effort into applying to those jobs. I was being very strategic about the time that I was looking for jobs. Like sometimes I would look for jobs at like 11 p.m. because that seemed to be when a lot of people were posting, and that's when I would apply to those jobs. I mean, I was applying at all hours of the day because I was just constantly on Upwork looking for job opportunities. And I knew that you needed to be applying to these jobs pretty quick because everybody in the world could be applying to that job. So I'd like to think that I got pretty good at doing that. Now, in April 2017 was when I got my very first job on Upwork. Let's break that down. The job description said, looking for an experienced editor. We have 2 short videos that need cleaned up and made to look professional. The price they were paying was $10, and it was pretty minimal work that was needed. So obviously I applied to it because it was something that I could do. Got the job, they gave me the project, I did the work, they liked it all worked out great. They gave me pretty immediately a 5-star review. They then offered me a second separate job at a later date. It was like 2 weeks later or something. Again, $10, clean up a video, did that successfully. They were happy with it, moved on. They then gave me a second 5-star review. I tend to forget how clutch that was in that moment to now have 2 5-star reviews sitting on my profile as someone who began relatively recently in the Upwork game, all for earning just $20 so far on Upwork after doing just a couple really super easy jobs. So I was really lucky and really grateful to have gotten that. It is important to note again that I earned less than $20 really, because Upwork does take 20% of your earnings. I think it was 20% at the time. So I really didn't make anything. And that's an important note. It's hard to go into Upwork thinking that you're going to find your dream job that's paying you this amazing thing, because there are just so many jobs on Upwork that people are only willing to pay such a small amount for. But you need to build up your reputation on Upwork somehow, because Upwork is not just a normal platform. And Fiverr is very similar if you've ever been on Fiverr. You need to work the game on Upwork. And so for me, that came down to earning $20 to clean up a few videos. Now, that job is now done and it is April, maybe going into the beginning of May. Cut to now June 2017. A whole month or 2 months went by before I then got my second job. So yet again, there's another month or 2 months of me applying to jobs all the time as much as I could, to jobs that specifically fit my niche, my expertise, my skills, my interests, and then of course, finding that match with a client who also wants to work with me. So June 17th, I applied for a longer term position with a YouTuber. I did a trial test for them that was paid. I ended up getting the job and I was kind of the assistant editor for them because they're a YouTuber, they already know how to edit. They needed things like rough cuts done and B-roll pulled and things like that. It was $15 an hour and it was really like only 5 hours max that I could put in per week. So it really didn't give me very much money, but to me, it was really exciting because I got to work with a YouTuber who was relatively well known, who was growing their channel, and I was getting better at figuring out the kinds of video that I liked editing for and the kinds of clients that I liked working for. Again, not earning a really good amount of money here. In fact, it took me a long time to actually earn, quote, good money on Upwork. And that even meant a lot of times moving out of Upwork after finding the client that you want to work with. But anyways, that's how I got my second job on Upwork. Okay, this is all well and good. Colleen, you got 2 jobs under your belt. Amazing, great job. Cut to November of 2017, 5 months after getting my second job. 5 months went by of working for that longer term job with that YouTuber, but that being my only job and me looking for other opportunities, obviously on Upwork. 5 months went by of that before I found another job that I ended up applying to. Again, it was for a big YouTube channel. And again, I ended up doing a test edit for them. And I did get this job and I actually still have this one. I still have this job after, how many years has it been? 6 years, that's so crazy. But the rate at the time was $25 an hour. And so slowly I'm moving up in rates, as you can see as well, which is obviously very exciting and gives me a better standard of what I could set my rate at the time on Upwork and outside of Upwork. And so it definitely went up from there as far as finding other opportunities on Upwork or using those jobs as experience to get real in-person jobs, which I ended up doing in the coming years. So now you know the whole story of how I got my first few jobs on Upwork, how long it took, how hard it was, and the basic timeline of how that went for me. Here are my final thoughts on this. It takes a long time to get your footing in Upwork, if Upwork is even the right platform for you to be using. And let it be known that I did have some experience. I did have my experience from school projects. I had experience from internships. I had experience from working on indie films. So I had material to show for myself. I can only imagine how difficult it would be if I didn't have any of that. So it's really important to be accepting and transparent with yourself about your situation and where you're standing right now. Maybe you have 0 video editing experience. Maybe you can't speak English very well. Maybe you don't have the charisma enough to charm the client into liking you enough to interview you. Whatever the case, if you just try and stick it out on Upwork or whatever platform you choose, and you try to improve your application process a little bit every time, you will eventually find yourself getting more attention for both Upwork or online opportunities as well as in-person opportunities. Definitely comment below if you have your own Upwork rags to riches story. You know, I love hearing from all of you, and I know you all probably would love to hear more inspiring stories of how other people got their foot in the door on Upwork. So definitely comment below with your Upwork dream scenario or your Upwork horror story. I would love to hear them. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would hit subscribe for more tips on video editing and freelance lifestyle, and it would just make me so happy. Thank you to my team. Again, I am Colleen, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Have the best one.